Hi, this is Mark Guerrero, November 18th, 2009, about to interview Chicano music pioneer Manny Lopez. Manny, how you doing?
Fine, Mark. Thank you very much for inviting me.
My pleasure. So how did you get started in music, and where were you born and where were you raised?
I was born in Downey, California. That's near Los Angeles. And I got started just by listening and looking at watching the other good musicians that were in town at that time.
Who were some of those musicians?
Some of those were like Tony Olvera, bass player, Manuel Cereces, pianist, Chico Guerrero, drummer, vibraphonist, and various musicians like that.
And what was your first instrument you picked up?
Guitar. I played guitar to begin with. Then from there I went to the vibes.
And what attracted you to the vibes?
I found it easy to get melodies on them. That's why I got on the kick, you know.
Was there any particular vibraphone player that you admired?
There was quite a few. It's hard to remember the good names, but
were they Chicano vibe players?
Well, not much. Chico Guerrero was a vibe player, but Lionel Hampton is the one I used to watch and listen to a lot, you know.
How about later on? Like, didn't Cal Jader do that?
Oh, yeah.
Did you like him?
I became good friends with Cal Jader. As a matter of fact, I got a card from him, a postcard from him from the Philippines. And he tells me in the card that the president, Marcos, the fellow who was president, had invited him to play in a concert for him. And a little bit after that, well, Cal passed away. So I don't know if he completed the concert or not with Marcos.
So what was the first band that you had?
The very first orchestra that I worked with was Joe May for the East Los Angeles.
Was he Chicano?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's from the East Side area there. He's still around. I think he's a teacher in one of the schools. He's still teaching.
Were you still like in high school pretty young when you were playing in some of these bands? Or how old were you?
I must have been about 16, 17. I was in the ship's band, jazz band. It was for the Navy, USS Princeton, CV-37. It's an aircraft carrier. And I was a guitar player in the group.
Were you in the Navy at that time?
Yes. I was in Shanghai, China. Wow. Yeah, and there was a bass player that I became real friendly with. He happened to be the son of a great known Jose Arias, typical music. Alfonso Arias, he played bass, and we were together on the ship. So it was quite enjoyable, you know.
Was this during World War II or after World War II? When was it with this Navy experience?
I was very lucky to miss up on the fighting, you know, because I went in 1946, cool. And the war had been over in 45. My brother Johnny was in the USS North Carolina during the war since 1942. So I'm glad I didn't have to go through what he did, you know. But I was happy to be in the Navy for 2.5 years. That's about it.
So when you got out, what did you do?
Well, I started working with the Arias family, the fellow that I had met on the ship, the bass player, with his dad. I started playing typical music, played guitar.
Were you singing at the time, or did you?
Some. I used to do some singing, not too much. I never considered myself a vocalist, you know, but I did what had to be done, what was necessary at the moment, you know.
So did you find yourself part of the L.A. Latin music scene, or what, after the war, like late 40s?
Oh yeah, I enjoyed the big bands. In those days, you wouldn't hear Tito Puente and Tito Rodriguez in the West Coast here, not too much anyway. But I used to go listen to the concerts for the Stan Kenton and people of that era, you know. Great music. I love their music for Stan Kenton and various bands like that.
Did you like during the war when you were younger? Did you like the music of like the Benny Goodman and Glenn Miller and those kind of people too?
All those were my very favorite. Not favorite, but
you liked them?
very beautiful music that I enjoyed.
And some of the black artists like Duke Ellington, Count Basie, all that stuff.
Oh, absolutely. I still play a few of the Duke Ellington tunes when I do a job here and there. Like one of the beautiful tunes that he did was "Sophisticated Lady." I do that with a Latin beat, Yeah.
Do you remember Don Toasty being around town and playing? And what did you think of Don and his music?
Oh yeah, Don Tosti hired me to do a few jobs with him, and I played guitar and vibes. And when he was playing the organ, the piano and organ, and it was very enjoyable. He was a nice guy to work with.
Now he also played, was it vibes or xylophone? But he played something like that, didn't he?
He played vibes also, yeah, sure.
And of course, upright bass in the early days. And what do you remember about my dad back in those days?
Oh, just about everything. I met your dad in 1946. He had a small conjunto group in a nightclub that was called La Capital on Whittier Boulevard. And he had a small group. By small group, I mean one trumpet, one saxophone, and the rhythm, and himself on the maracas and singing. And I learned a lot from him to begin with, because I only played with a trio, 3 guitars at the time, and we used to come in and play intermission. When your dad was taking a break, we'd play intermission. So that's how it got started, really.
And you remember some of his early recordings from those days, the Pachuco stuff and the Imperial Records and all that?
Oh, yeah, I remember all those good. I didn't do the Pachuco music, but Lalo, as Don Tosti did, but
You never got into that?
I didn't go on that kick. I like the more sophisticated jazz and Latin.
So when did you record for Imperial? It was much after my dad, right?
Yeah, I recorded 1957 for RCA Victor in Los Angeles. I was working with a quintet at a place called the Bayon on Atlantic Boulevard, and the people from the RCA Victor stopped in one night and they heard my group, so they started making arrangements to record with a bigger band. So I added 3 violins, viola, cello, 2 flutes, and the full rhythm. And they took me to Hollywood and recorded. They liked it.
Now, were you like a schooled musician that could actually write out music and read music, or were you more of a head musician?
No, I write more than I can read. I write everything that I play, but I learned by asking. I would ask my friends like Manuel Cereced as a pianist. And I would tell him, look, I'm doing this. He said, no, not like that. You do this, you mess up the rest of them. You have to do this, and you have to sharpen it, you have to flatten it, you have whatever. So that's little by little, that's how I learned, but not from a private school.
These are a couple of little people that I remember, friends of my dad. Do you remember Manny Matas?
Absolutely, yeah.
What do you remember about him?
Oh, well, no, he used to work around quite a bit. I used to watch him and listen to what he did.
He was very schooled. I remember he could write, and he was very schooled in music.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, he did arrangements for other people.
How about Memo Mata? What do you remember about him?
Oh, Memo, too. He used to write arrangements for small groups. Yeah. I didn't know him that well, but I knew of him, yeah.
Did you ever used to go hear the bands down at like Olvera Street, like when my dad was on Olvera Street and all that stuff?
Oh, yeah, sure. Your dad did all the important Latin American places, music and all that. He was always there. You always hear, who's going to be there? Lalo Guerrero's going to be there. And people get all excited, because he was a big name, big fellow, big musician.
Now, how did you got involved with Imperial after RCA?
After RCA, yes. I did 2 recordings for RCA, one in Los Angeles and one in Mexico City at RCA Victor Studios. And then after that, I did 2 for Lou Chudd, who was the director of Imperial Records. At that time, he had his son is Ricky Nelson. Yeah, well, his dad is the one that had something to do with the company there. Yeah.
When you said you did 2 albums for Imperial?
Yeah. in Mexico City. Yeah,
2 albums for Imperial, and you did what? 2 albums for RCA?
yeah. One is Cha-Cha Pops. In other words, the popular tunes. I had things like Anglo compositions like Stairway to the Stars, Angela Mia, There I Said It Again, and various tunes like that,
Regular tunes that you would turn into cha-chas?
Right. Commercial tunes, from years back,
Do you remember the names of the 2 albums that you did on RCA?
The other one was Manny's Cha-Cha. Yeah, that's about
Do
it.
you remember the names of the Imperial albums?
Why Not Cha-Cha-Cha and More Cha-Cha-Cha. That was the 2 albums.
All that was during that cha-cha craze era, huh?
Oh, yeah. That was my era. That was my thing.
Would you say that was what, late 50s, early 60s?
Right. I started in 57, and I did the albums in Mexico in 60. It's a long time ago.
And then Imperial was after 1960?
About that time, about 60 or 61.
I remember your nightclub on Atlantic Boulevard, Manny Lopez. When did you open that?
Yeah, I had very good people. I had the bass player. I tell you, I learned a lot from Tony Olivera, and the pianist Manuel Cereces, and Eddie Aparicio, a drummer, and Angel Perez was playing was a conga player for me at the time. And various people would come in, sit in with us all the time.
And how long did you own that club? From what year to what year? Do you remember?
I had from 73 to 83. I sold the club in 83 because of my wife's illness. She got cancer, and I sold the club to take care of her at home.
Did you have a lot of guest artists come in and play? Like when you weren't playing, did you have some well-known artists take over?
Oh, yes. I was fortunate to get Tito Puente to play one night. I remember exactly, it was August 5th, 1965.
Wow.
And he was in town, booked every night except that Thursday night. So I talked to him. We had lunch together, and he says, I'll do it for you, but, what can you pay, or how many people can you hold in your club? I says, about 225 people. So he gave me a very special price. I don't want to say how much, but it was very good for me and for the club. It was a big shot in the arm,
Did he come with a small band, or was his whole band, or how big was his band?
Oh, he had the full band. The full bandstand was full, and then some of his musicians were on the floor.
And the place must have been jam-packed, huh?
Oh, it was. There's people outside that couldn't get in because of the fire department. They denied any more people in there.
Wow.
It was beautiful. I sure enjoyed it, having it.
Now, as a songwriter, did you write many songs on your albums?
I have in the albums. I have a tune that I composed for my wife. Her name is Diosa, a goddess, and Los Tres Locos y Las Tres Locas, female and male, and various tunes like that. Oiganlo, and various cha-cha tunes.
Most of them were cha-chas?
Yeah, or bolero tropical bolero style, Right.
Now, what about touring? What kind of touring did you do?
One of the most interesting was the one with I went with Tony Martin, my band and I, 7 pieces. We have 7 musicians and 2 girl dancers. And we went to Miami, the Bahamas, to Puerto Rico. We went to Havana just before Castro came in and took over. We were there the last night. The last night he was up in the hills, and Tony, my boss, Tony Martin, told me, "Don't tell the fellas not to go into town tomorrow because we're leaving early. We're leaving early, and it's very dangerous right now." They were bombing the police stations, government buildings, and things like that. The people that were in favor of Castro. Yeah, I went through all that, but we were not in danger. We were in our hotel, and we had a lot of security.
That's amazing. Did you, most of your touring was in the United States and Cuba. Did you tour Mexico?
No, only to make that recording in Mexico City. I never toured as a musician or as an artist. No,
And you never went to like Europe or Canada or any other or Asia or anything?
no.
It was mainly the United States and Cuba.
Yeah, I was in the Navy, but in Shanghai, China. But it was because I was there. I had to be there. I was in the Navy. You know.
You had to be there.
But if I hadn't been in the Navy, I never would have seen China. You know, that's another thing. I have to be grateful to the U.S. Navy for taking me over there. I didn't like it at the time. I'll be honest with you, because I was engaged to my wife, the one that later on died from cancer. But I didn't like the idea of being in China at first, you know. But when I came home, now I realize how good it was for me to be able to have gone to China and spend some time over there.
Boy, and Shanghai then must have been amazing, because now it's it's getting more and more Americanized. But back then, it must have been unbelievable.
Oh yeah, I understand it's a beautiful city now, but when I was there, it wasn't. I'll tell you the truth, it wasn't nice. It wasn't pretty. It was very, very down, very rough.
Wow.
Lots of poor people, you know. And
So you were born in 1927, right, in Downey?
that's right, exactly.
And you grew up in Downey, and then did you move to East L.A. when you had the nightclub?
I moved to East L.A. when to Montebello, really, when I got married with my wife, the beautiful Jenny. A lot of people remember her, and they still ask me, you know, you miss her? Of course I miss her. She had cancer for 17 years, and it went from one part of her body to another, finally to her brain, and that was the end of it. The City of Hope, they helped me a lot. They didn't cure her, but you know, I appreciate the help they gave me while she was ill. Although it didn't end for the best, you know. But what can you do, you know?
Was she the mother of Manny, your son?
Yes.
He was a musician. Is he still a musician?
Yeah. They all play, but not professionally.
And how many kids did you have?
5 boys, 5 boys and a girl. I have a daughter that lives over in the valley someplace in San Fernando. She's married and she's okay. She's happy.
That's good. So all your kids were musical, but only one professional?
Yeah, not professional. Well, the bass player, Steve, he has worked with me and with my group. He works bass. He plays bass with me whenever I work, you know.
And Manny didn't go professional?
Manny plays everything, but no, he's more of an actor.
Oh, really?
He likes more the acting. He works in a place in Long Beach setting up the studio for the actors for the plays. Like the lights, the sound, the stage, the furniture, whatever. He loves to do that.
So after you sold your club, 1982, when you started playing again, where did you start playing then?
I started working just in different golf.
Country clubs?
Yeah, country clubs and different special dances, special clubs. That's about it.
And mainly in the L.A. area at first?
Uh,
Mainly in Los Angeles, right?
yeah.
And then when did you move out to the desert?
That's about it. I mean, you know, I've been retired, semi-retired for a while. You know, I've been doing, for the past 5 years, I've been doing a job for the Stroke Foundation, for the Heart Association, like the big dances they have every year. I've been lucky. They call me, and I do the job for them.
And who do you play with? You play with other musicians or by yourself?
No, I get a group together. I know so many of them that have worked with me in the past that I start calling people. We've got a job coming.
Now, when did you move to the desert out here?
Well, 15 years ago. My wife and I had come before in 1982 to look for a place to live here. And actually, we didn't find it. We didn't find one, but we didn't find it because we didn't look any further. She said no. That's when she got pretty sick for the cancer. And she says, forget about the new house in Palm Springs or in the desert. So we went back to Montebello, and that's where she passed away later on.
I guess that would make it about 1994.
Yeah. And then I remembered that she wanted to come over here, so I says, well, I'm going to take a chance and go by myself. So here I am.
Did you remarry?
No, not again.
I remember you played at the Don Toasty memorial concert over at the Riviera, and I was on stage with you at that time. It was a great band.
Absolutely. That was a very, very fine, very entertaining, very pleasant thing to do for Don Toasty.
Cool.
I miss him a lot, you know.
That's great. Well, anyway, well, thanks for doing this, and if I have any other questions, I'll call you up.
Well, I want to thank you, Mark, for this interview. I appreciate it very much, and I love the things you're doing here with your equipment and all your stuff here. I appreciate it very much, and I'm glad to say that I was a very good friend, not just a friend, but a buddy of your dad.
Great.
Okay, for years and years.
Great. Well, thanks a lot, man. Bye-bye.